All right, welcome everybody. Welcome all our Torah Anytime viewers. Tonight we are going to continue with Mashiach Part 9. And tonight is the most important topic of all our Mashiach series. It's, I don't know if I should say unfortunate or fortunate. People usually like to hear end of days or Gog and Magog, what's going to be the destruction. But the real most important shiur that you need to listen to is this, because everything else is sort of, I don't want to say theoretical, but theoretical for your own essence. You cannot really do anything about it. Today is what you can do about it. So today what we're going to speak about is, the topic is like the spiritual survival kit. How will you survive the end of days? And this is not the way that you're going to build, like we were speaking about, a fortress of a nuclear resistant house or something like that. It's actually what can you do in the spiritual aspect of it that will guarantee you that you will be in the end of days in the time of Mashiach. So there was a few things that the way that I'm gonna present this tonight, Be'ezrat Hashem, is there were a few things that we spoke about in previous classes and like different aspects of it. Today we're gonna sort of bring it all together. So for the first few minutes, we'll do a little bit of a review of what we spoke about previously, and then we're going to go on to new things. And we're going to go through a series of things. I don't know, maybe like 8, 9 things of what you need to do before Mashiach comes in order to make sure that you're in the surviving part. And we know that we said that a third of the world is not going to make it, or the Mashiach, the Jewish side, you're going to have a fifth. Hopefully everyone does tshuva, and it's not going to happen to that. But we definitely want to make sure that we are in that aspect of it. It's going to be so miraculous. It's like not, it's not like a nice show that you don't want to miss. This is like the purpose of the world's creation was for this. So you don't want to miss it. So now, of the things that we spoke about, we said the Gemara in Sanhedrin, page 98, that said that if somebody wants to survive the end of days, the Gemara says 2 things that you have to do: Torah and Chesed, which is learning Torah and doing kindness, doing Gemilut Chasadim. So we also mentioned how there's going to be 2 powers that's going to come at the end of days, and those going to be the 2 powers are going to be at war with each other, which is Ishmael and Edom, which is the Christianity world. So it's going to be the Christian versus the Islamic world before they unite against Israel, unfortunately. So what we spoke about Edom, its essence was arrogance. Edom was a very prideful, everything is about them is arrogance, they have to be on the top. Yishmael, on the other hand, is very much into their desires and their pleasures. And that's what they strive for. So we said that the reason, now, when these strong forces come into the world, these are obviously impure forces which means of arrogance, impure forces of desire, which, by the way, if you just look at what the world is going on, very strong in both aspects of it. Of pride, of arrogance, and of the opposite end of desire. Very, very strong right now, which shows you, at the end of days. You know how, sometimes you're taking, like a metal detector, and as you get closer, it's like beep, 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 it gets like hot, the beeps louder. Right now, we're there's like a solid beep. We're right on the end of times where there is, and that's why there is such a strong, powerful urge for these 2 particular sins, one of pride and the other of desire. So, we spoke about this also. Rabbi Yitzchak Isaac Havel explains, and it says that's why we have two particular things that we need to do. One is Chesed and one is Torah. These 2 particular things combat these 2 very bad desires of arrogance and immorality, of desire of immoral things. So how does that work? Torah, we said that if somebody has a temptation to do a sin, what should he do? Go and bring the Satan to the Yetzirah. Go to the Bet Midrash. He should let him go and learn Torah. Because when a person goes and is overwhelmed with a certain desire to do, what he should do right away to overcome that desire is start learning. When you learn Torah, it's sort of like takes the Yetzirah away. And this is the Gemara in Kedushin, I believe it was page 30, which says, Barati Yetzirah, Barati Torah Tavlin. I created the evil inclination, and I created the Torah as its antidote. You want to get rid of the evil inclination? You got the Torah. The Torah combats it. As the opposite end was, so that will take care of Ishmael. That will take care of the desire of the arrogance of the, of the desire, not the arrogance. The arrogance is, which is the Edom, this is going to be through Chesed. We spoke about it before, that when you give for somebody else, when you do Chesed for somebody else, you're really lowering yourself. You're saying, okay, let me put myself on hold, let me help someone else. When you're helping someone else, that is the Chesed, and that is combating the arrogance. Now, we're going to plug in a few more things. When we spoke about, I think it was class number 2 and class number 3 on Mashiach, we spoke about what's going to be in the end of days. And there's few certain criteria how you know it's going to be in the end of days. I'm just going to go through a few of them very quickly. I'm not going to go into in depth like we went before, but how you could see that these 2 strong desires of pride and arrogance from Edom and the desire of immorality from Ishmael, how they come into play, and these are the signs of the end of days. So we said I'm not going to give all the sources because it's going to take us too long, but a majority of the sources from Gemara Sanhedrin, page 97, and also the Gemara in Sotah, page 49. But it says like this. It says regarding arrogance. It said that at the end of the days, it's going to be the people are going to resemble like dogs. In the Gemara in Be'ah, in page 25, it says like this. It says that that the dog is a very stubborn animal. A very, very stubborn animal. You have a big tzaddik. A big tzaddik to be. So the dog is a very, very stubborn animal. Anybody here have dogs? Baruch Hashem. Okay. So but they're very, like, you can't tell them wait. You know, like it's everything's about me right now, and this is what has to be done. The next thing, it says that the youth will shame the elders. The chutzpah is going to go out. The youth shaming the elders. This is all going to be what? This is all going to be the increase of arrogance in the end of days. We also had that there's not going to be any rebuke. Why can't you rebuke somebody? Nowadays, you have to be careful. If you want to rebuke somebody, you got to have boxing gloves and body armor if you're going to tell somebody he's doing something wrong. So why is it? Because their arrogance, their pride is so strong that they can't. They can't even accept it. This is one of we spoke about this when we spoke about one of the marriage topics. One of the worst character traits to have in a relationship is pride, is arrogance. Because you're going to be like, why should I apologize? Let her apologize first. And she's going to be like, let's say she also has, arrogance. Why should I apologize? He did something wrong, and he did something wrong. At the end, nobody's ever satisfied. Everybody's always upset, and no one ever is apologizing. Two people that have a lot of pride and arrogance, they have a very, very difficult marriage. Very difficult marriage. So the Edom, which resembles pride, this is what's going to happen in the days. We see how these are the signs that happen in the days because pride is going to be so strong. The next thing that we spoke about is the temptation to sin, the desires for immorality. So we mentioned that there is going to be, and the wine will be expensive. Right? And we mentioned also it's not going to be because there's not going to be enough wine. There's not, usually there's supply and demand, which means there's not enough supply. So that's why you'll be able to, raise the prices. No, there's plenty of supply. But yet we see every block there's another liquor store. It's ridiculous. If you look at it, sometimes there's two, one across the street from another. So God forbid you don't have to cross the street to buy your alcohol. It's ridiculous on how much liquor stores there are. And these liquor stores, I guess Baruch Hashem, they're doing good. I guess they're doing very well. Why? It's people, enjoy it. People like it, and there's a big demand for it. And what's interesting is that the prices are still going up, and people are still buying it. Anybody who's knows, and we spoke about this in the Scotch, knows that these prices keep on rising, and that it's not like the demand is going down, or the supply is going down. Next, we also said that the people's faces are going to resemble like dogs. What do we mean by resembles like dogs? Dogs, we spoke before also regarding the pride, but regarding the desire, dogs, their noses are always down. They're always smelling into the world, which means that their whole focus in life is only into this materialistic world. And that's where, unfortunately, many people have over here. So how do you get rid of these desires into these world, the temptations that we have into this world? We also said there's going to be meeting places for harlotry. There's going to be there's nut, the promiscuity is going to be rampant. So how do you get rid of these things? We said the Torah. And the Torah, by the way, it says that, it brings in the Zohar, it brings the Vilna Gaon, also brings it down, that the merit that we're going to have to redemption is going to be through Torah study. That is one of the main things that we have to do, is through Torah study. So it's interesting when you think about, when the Torah was given to the Jewish people. Before it was given to the Jewish people, it was offered to everybody else. Right? It went to, for example, and this is, by the way, if anybody wants to look inside, it's Yalkut Shemoni on Devarim, chapter 33. He goes to Esav. God goes to Esav and says, the archangel of Esav says, listen, you want the Torah? It depends, before you get something, before you want to buy something, even if you're getting it free, depending what it is, what's inside it? I want to know before I get myself into it. So what did they tell Esav? It says that you're not allowed to murder. So you're not allowed to murder. So they said, and they said, listen, murder, this is our essence. This is who we are. And in fact, we know that the Torah says in Genesis chapter 27, verse 22, it says, Esav, his thing is on his hands. We know also in Genesis chapter 27, verse 40, his father, Yitzchak, gave him an assurance regarding that this is how he's going to live. He's going to live on his sword. So this is our essence, is murder. Our essence is that we're going to take now a Torah that we can't do it. No, thank you, but no thank you. And they turned it down. Ammon and Moab. What did they say about Ammon and Moab? They said, what's in the Torah also? They asked him. So he said, you're not allowed to commit adultery, immorality. He says, listen, this is kind of the thing that we do. We can't really, and they said, No, thank you, but no, thank you. He went to Shmuel. Shmuel said, no stealing. He says, listen, this is what we need to do. This is also what we are. We know Hamas. We're all about getting things that don't belong to us. So they said they turned everything down. But what I want to focus on is particularly was Esab. Esab said no because we murder. Now, what's the essence of murder? Why particularly do they have a drive to murder? And the reason is that the foundation of it is that I'm only in existence and nobody else. Nobody else matters because it's only about me. Which means its essence is pride, and we know a lot of, generally speaking, a lot of murder happens because of pride. How many? We spoke about road rage. How many road rage murders are there in the world? You probably have the statistics better than I do. A lot of things that are done is a lot of it because of pride. And even if it's because of jealousy, that's also an association with pride. If you look into the depth of the foundation of murder, it's very, very strongly founded in arrogance, in pride. So Rav Dessler explains something beautiful as follows. He says there's two negative traits that they have their foundation. Number one is desire, and the other one is pride. Now, what is the difference between desire and pride? When you have desire, let's give an example. Let's try to be kosher. Give an example of food. You have a desire to eat something really good, a tasty steak. You go to, what's the most expensive restaurant in the city? That steakhouse. Prime? Reserve Cut, thank you. You go to Reserve Cut, you order like a nice $250 steak, and your mouth is watering. You've been thinking about this for the entire week, and you get there, and the steak is coming. It's delicious, and you eat the entire thing up. And you wait there for a minute or two. You're like, you know what? Give me another one. Like, it's so good. Another one. Eventually, you'll eat two. Maybe if you have a big stomach, you'll eat three. What's going to be eventually? Eventually, you're going to be sick of it. You're not going to be able. And for generally Americans, after you're really stuffed, we have about a half hour until we get hungry again, right? So you have that half hour of time where you're like, all right, no more steak. I can't even look at it. So during that period of time, you could sort of think and be like, oh man, what did I just do? Especially if you're trying to watch your weight and this, like you feel bad for a second because the desire was satisfied, and you have a sort of a break until the desire comes back again. That is desire. Desire, there's a break for it, and then it gets rejuvenated when sort of a short while later. Pride doesn't happen that way. Pride, you never get satisfied with pride. You never feel like you have enough honor. You never feel like you got enough. The biggest proof for this is, and I may be wrong about this, but I always wondered why Trump ran for president. I really did. I'm like, he has money. He has pride. He's popular. Everybody knows him. He has his brand name. He did a good job, putting his name out there. Oh. So, what? Yeah, exactly. What other reason is there? And it's funny because it's he brings it down how he asked. He was giving an interview and he's like, it's harder than I thought it was, or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing. Like I'm like, yeah, you're not running a Fortune 500 company. You're running you're running an entire country, one of the most powerful of the world. Obviously it's going to be difficult. So why did he go into it? It's like a lot of work and a lot of stress. And the answer is, at least one part of an answer, it could be many other reasons, but one answer is, come on, you're going to become the most powerful person in the entire world. Very hard to take it down, that type of if you're someone who strives for honor. But the difference is, honor, you can never have enough. And you can never be like, you get so much honor at one point in time, you'd be like, you know what? It was so good. I got so much honor. I'm good for like a half hour. You don't. It just keeps on like, okay, why didn't more people? Why didn't it reach out to more? And then more and more and more. Now, why is it two different? Number one, because desire, its essence of desire is what? Its foundation is in the materialistic world. Honor is something more in the spiritual realm of things. Spirituality never gets satisfied. There's always more to accomplish. In the materialistic world, there's a certain point in time, no matter whatever desire it is, any sin that it is, whether drugs, women, doesn't matter what it is, there's a certain point where we're like, you know what? I need a break. It might be a half hour, but it's still, you need a break. So that is the difference. Now, if you look at it, the way that we had two main exiles, and what I'm referring to is actually, it's 4 exiles, but in particular, the destruction of the Bet HaMikdash. How did it work? The first destruction of the Bet HaMikdash lasted only for 70 years. The second one we know was ready for like almost 2,000 years. So what's going on? The first Bet HaMikdash was destroyed for immorality, idolatry, and murder. 3 things. So the Gemara says, in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, in page 63, it says, what its foundation was? Its foundation was really desire. Why was it desire? Because you think about idolatry. What was the desire for idolatry? The Gemara says that one of the reasons that they did idolatry is because it gave them permission to act promiscuous. There's many weird cults. Why do these cults start in existence? Because, okay, you want to come to this cult, you have to do this like crazy, weird, immoral acts. And people like those immoral acts. So now they don't feel bad. They're like, okay, it's part of God's plan, and this is how we get into it. We have to get into this demon, whatever it is that they're doing. So it gets them the permission to do whatever it is that they wanted to do with a little bit of less guilt than they would normally have. So that is why they committed idolatry. And then how did they commit murder during the first Beit HaMikdash? Because people that tried to stop them from committing the desires, so they murdered them. So we see over here the whole foundation of it was a foundation of desire. Now, what do we say about desire? When when your desire has been fulfilled, you're sort of, you have a minute to think for a second. And once you have a minute to think, you're like, okay, maybe I messed up. Maybe I should do tshuva. So you have that opportunity to do tshuva. That's why the first destruction of the Beit HaMikdash only lasted for 70 years. Why? Because they had the ability to stop for a second and be like, okay, wait, we're doing something wrong over here. And then the tshuva came afterwards. As opposed to, we know that the second Beit HaMikdash, the destruction was what? Because of sinat chinam, baseless hatred. Baseless hatred is based off pride. I'm better than you, and that's why you start, disliking other people. So when you're having this arrogance, this pride, because you're chasing your own honor, you're never satisfied. If you're never satisfied, you'll never stop for a second and be like, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Because you only think about yourself. Hence, the destruction is still in existence. And that's why when the nations that dominated the Jewish people, for example, Egypt, Babylon, Persia, and Ishmael, their focus is desire. So their occupation over the Jewish nation was short-lived. However, Edom, which his foundation is based off pride, the foundation is everlasting. Is not everlasting, but it's lasting a really long time. So this is what we have to deal with. Now, I saw something beautiful. Baal Shem Tov says like this. It says that before a person gets, by the way, this is important that you came just to listen for this aspect of it. Before you get a big promotion in life, you get tested. Says the Baal Shem Tov. And it's going to be either one of two tests, most likely. What is going to be a test? Either it's going to be a test of anger, or it's going to be a test of desire. Now, why particularly those two things? Because those two things, if you realize, if you get a test of anger, or if somebody's about to get angry, what happens? His whole body becomes hot. You get you could be freezing, but if you get angry, if someone cuts you off and you're driving and you have that road rage situation going on, you doesn't matter if it's freezing, you're boiling. You're going in your shorts and you're outside, you're fuming. Whatever it is that happens, someone give you a fender bender and you're not working on your humility. So you're fuming over there. But it's not just one part of your body; your whole body gets infused with it. Desire also works the same way. When you're doing a sin, your whole body becomes infused with it. For these two sins, if you think about it, you become a little bit of a different person. You mutate into something else. But if you overcome this, then you have a promotion coming. This is something that someone should think about. It's a good way to overcome it. Because if someone is about to get angry, be like, hold on. Because imagine, you're about to get tested and you're going to get a big promotion. I'm not talking about a big promotion from your boss in life. A big promotion in life goes a lot further than a big promotion in the boss. It could be in monetary, it could be finding a wife, it could be shalom bayit, it could be kids, it could be whatever it is. So when you're about to get angry, be like, what? Hold on, this might be a test. Well, it's for sure a test. But if you think about it, you'd be like, what? Maybe I'll get a big promotion out of this. It's much easier to overcome. And again, even this is easier said than done, because when you're about to get angry, all common sense goes right out the window. There's nothing, especially if you come from one of those, hot-headed, Islamic countries, where if the woman doesn't give you the supper, she will feel the wrath of my back of my ring. So, but in all essence, if you're able to overcome it, there is a big promotion that's coming. Now, Rav Tzadok HaKohen says like this. He says that what happens if someone gets pride, because of his pride, he gets this immediate need to become angry, and he overcomes it. What bracha does he get? Says Rav Tzadok HaKohen, he gets a bracha of parnasa, of money. And he says, what about desire? What about if somebody's really desiring for immoral things, and he overcomes it? What bracha does he get? He gets a bracha of protection, shmirah. Now, this is where I'm going to start plugging in things. This is my own, so I may be wrong. It's my own chidush, but I think it works in so beautifully. So we said pride gives you parnasa, money. What do we say pride stems from? From Edom. Now Edom, in order to overcome with Edom, what do you need? You need to do gemilut chasadim. You need to do kindness. Now, how can you do kindness? If you have a lot of money, you can do more kindness. The more money that you have, the more kindness that you have. However, at the same point in time, if you think about it, the more money you have, the more arrogance you have also. So you get tested with the same thing that you need to overcome. So now, if you want to go and you want to overcome Edom, So you have to overcome the pride. What happens when you overcome the pride? You get a bracha panasa. You get a bracha panasa, you can be able to go and do more chesed. And this is the bracha that you get. Now let's look at the other one, the Shmittauer Protection. We know in Yishmael, the desire. The one thing that you need to do to get rid of the desire is you learn Torah, and in order to get out of the whole immoral aspect of it. Now, if you're able to hold yourself back, what bracha do we say you get? You get protection. We know one of the main things that we need from Yishmael is protection, because those people are, they are, who would want to kill themselves just to perhaps maybe, injure somebody, a soldier. Somebody sent me a video. A few days ago. Ridiculous. It was a music video on how they are going to, and the ridiculous thing, it was in Hebrew. It was by an Arab media. We're going to stab the Jewish man. We're going to stab the Israeli policeman. And it was like all rhyme and like you see like gory with like blood falling out. And this is what Palestinian media. Oh, why not? Come on, we're the bad people. Fools, liberals. Okay. All right. I'm going to warn you, I have a lot boiling up. We might go off that end today. Okay, so anyways, that is the aspect of that. Now let's move on to the next thing. The next thing we said that if you want to go, so we said right now, we sort of went a little bit on a lengthy tangent, but two things that you need to do to be saved in the end of days until we're up to right now is Torah and Gemilut Chasadim. That's what you have to do. Now the other thing that you need to do is emunah. We spoke about this also. You have to. We spoke about this. If anybody here heard the class on Gog and Magog, the test is going to be a serious test of faith. Now, I put out, when in the class, I said if people could send me, information on whoever, because I remember there was this big rabbi that said it. So, who particularly said that the test at the end of the days should be a test of faith. So, Baruch Hashem, I got so many responses. But one of the most recent ones that I got is, and it's brought down like this. I'll actually read it to you, a small paragraph. What is the mitzvah of our generation? Rabbi David Abu Chatzera, grandson, I believe, of the Baba Sali, asked Reb Steinman, Gadol Adol. And Reb Steinman answered, it is to strengthen ourselves very much in faith and trust in God alone and not in the people. Which is emunah. Which means Reb Steinman, and this is, by the way, this is what I was looking for all along. Came in the last one. The last one that came in was that Reb Steinman, we had, Reb Chaim Kanievsky, literally like all the Gedolei Adol, said, what do you need to work on at the end of the days is emunah. This is the foundation. So we need to know, this is number 3 already. We got Torah, Chesed, and now emunah. Just an honorable mention, we spoke about in the Erev Rav, that you have to do things for the right reasons. Unfortunately, which is the doing things lishma, for the sake of the right reasons. There are unfortunately many people, when they become about tshuva, they become religious. Why do they become religious? They want to find a shidduch. They want parnasa. They're doing things. And by the way, keep on doing it. If that's the reason that you're in, keep on doing it. But know that the main reason you should be doing it is not for those reasons. It should be for God, and for God alone, and to get closer to God. So the 4th thing is to do things for the right reasons. The 5th thing is very important, is Shabbat. The Gemara, Yerushalmi, in Tanit says that if the Jewish nation will keep just one Shabbat properly, Mashiach will come immediately. Which means that the whole Jewish nation will just keep one Shabbat. Imagine if you're going there, and it just so happens to be that everybody kept Shabbat. Some people, by the way, keep Shabbat by accident. They're on vacation, and they're just like, whatever, they're just lazy, they're not interested with the phone, and they just keep Shabbat. And imagine the whole world keeps Shabbat, except for you. One person. Imagine like the Mashiach was going to come, and you prevented it. Imagine what a person, and that's how you should think about it. Don't think about, well, I know somebody's texting me, so I know they're not giving me Shabbat, so I'm okay. Don't think about it like that. And then this is the final part that not the final part, but the main focus I want to speak about today, B'ezrat Hashem, is the focus of tshuva. The focus of tshuva. The Yerushalmi, the Gemara Yerushalmi, in Tanit says, and the Zohar as well, says, what thing prevents redemption? The lack of tshuva. All Hashem asks is return to Hashem, and the redemption is going to come. Now we're going to be speaking about tshuva. I have to have a few discussions before it goes like that. I'll speak it like this. Whenever I speak, let's say about marriage stuff, I always get like, who needs to listen to this class? My husband. Or who needs it? My wife. Oh, she has such pride. She's terrible. So materialistic. I'm telling you, she needs to listen to the class. So when people, unfortunately, when they listen to classes, sometimes they think about, who really needs to listen to this? I know who really needs to listen. Don't think about that. Right. For right now, you have to think about it right now for yourself. We're going to be speaking about for tshuva. You alone is what you're focusing on. Afterwards is who you're going to send the shiur to. Right. Go and share with everybody. Which is very important. You go and share and get the reward for it. But the main thing is when you're learning a Torah, don't think about it. You know who really needs to listen to this? You know who really needs it? You need to listen to this. And you need to do it. We all need to do tshuva. So think about yourself. That's the main focus right now. So now the Gemara says like this. The Gemara says, how is the world going to be in the end of days? Mashiach is going to come. How is the world going to be? So it's a machloket between Rav and Shmuel. Shmuel said it's going to be a very normal world. Rav said it's going to be a completely different world. Obviously, two very different. This is you're talking about diametric opposite poles of the equation over here. It can't be the same. Says Arizal, they're both right. How does Arizal explain it? He goes, no, it's fine. He's learning Torah with all of us. So he's darshaning. He's getting used to it. So the Arizal says like this. The Arizal says that it depends how you lived your life in this world. If you live your life in a very physical aspect being, which unfortunately, many of us are very into the very physical aspect of things, then in the next world it's going to be a completely normal world. But if you focus on the spiritual aspect of things in this world, then in the next world, which means when Mashiach comes, it's going to be a completely different world. And to explain it, there's a pasuk. The pasuk in Isaiah, in chapter 11, verse 9, it says, Ki mala'ah haaretz de'at Hashem. The world, the entire land will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem. How? Says the pasuk, Kamayim layam michasim. Like the water is covering the bed of the sea. Now, it's very interesting because when you go to the ocean looks flat. However, if you're walking into the ocean, it can, slowly and suddenly you can have a drop of 100 feet. But it looks flat on top. So everything looks normal. If you're familiar with one, there's a very cool, ideas you call the blue hole. Anybody here familiar with the blue hole? Anybody here big into scuba diving, fishing? No, all those things. Okay. So I've been once to these, to this thing years ago. I went, being that I'm going to be speaking about this, I have to actually obviously preface it that obviously if you're going to these places, it has to be kosher. Modesty is a very big issue with that. A particular thing that I went to was it was just me, there and whoever I was with, the group that I was with. So when you're going to these type of things, modesty is extremely, extremely important when you're doing these things. So I went to this thing. It was a blue hole, and the way that it works is so you go. Either you're doing scuba diving or you're doing snorkeling, and so as you go out, there is about 3 feet of the ground for maybe 200 feet. 200 feet, you're swimming in the depth of about 3 feet, and you see the fish, you see corals, you see reefs, you see it's beautiful. You see Hashem's creation. And then all of a sudden, you pass by this little thing, and suddenly it drops down to 200 feet. Not slowly, you're talking about from 1 foot to the next is just a steep drop. And it's very interesting because when you're swimming like that, you're swimming and you see a big drop, you're suddenly like, oh my God, I'm going to fall in. But you can't. But this is the thought the people that I'm with, they had to go back because they were scared that they were going to fall in. It's that psychologically. And it's really cool because if you look at it from an aerial view, you see nice clear water, and all of a sudden you see a blue hole, a very solid blue hole. So you see all of a sudden there's different levels of the sea. And so in the same aspect, it depends on your ability to see things. If you're able to go under the water, you're able to see very far down. But if you're looking for right above, you see just the surface. So the same way, just like the water covers the entire the seabed, and there is different levels and different layers that you're able to see under it, depending on your perception, think of it even imagine they create this cool new technology that you can see underwater, which means you can see underwater from the top of the water. The stronger the frequency, the more further down that you can see. Sort of like sonar, if you could think about it. So, if you delve into this world, into the spiritual side, you'll have that sonar ability to see deep down. Which means is this world, it's going to look the same, but it's going to be completely different, and you're going to be perceptive to that aspect of it. As opposed to if you're very focused on the physical aspect of things, then you're going to see it's like a regular. It's just flat. It's a flat ocean. You can't see anything different. So. Now, the idea that we have to focus on, I heard this from Rabbi Akiva Tatz, explained it beautifully. He says, what is the purpose of the whole Messianic era? Why do we need it? What is the main purpose of these things? So, he explains as follows, and he explains this all based off the Maral. The Maral says like this. First of all, the question is we have to understand, is there going to be free will? We'll touch upon this in later classes, but in the end of the days, is there going to be free will? So there is going to be a sort of aspect of free will, but not really fully. For example, it's going to be like a free will like the angels have it. To give you an example, how the angels have free will, there's a fire in front of you, right? And are you able to burn yourself in the fire? I mean, you could, if you're crazy and you want to, you could force your hand to be there. I mean, you wouldn't want to do it because it would be stupid. Why would you want to burn your hand? But technically you could. So that type of free will where like I could burn my hand, but I don't really want to, and it's not really a temptation, like, I'm assuming that you're psychologically stable, it's not really a temptation, so you're not going to be like, I really want to do it, so that's the type of free will that you're going to have at the end of the days. Everything is going to be clear. It's not going to be a temptation to sin, because it'll be like, no, like, why would I do that? It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. So that's the idea. So if that's the idea, then what is the purpose of it? How do we get reward? So explain to Maharal beautifully like this, that right now when we want to develop ourselves, right? You want to work on your pride, you want to work on your, on your learning of your Torah, your, whatever it is that you're working on your own personal things. And you're limited by how you can work on it. You have a job, you're working, you're this and you're that. You have a certain time that you're able to learn Torah. You don't have the time, the ability to fully focus and build on these things. And at the end of the days, in the Messianic era, you will be able to have the capability to maximize the potentials of things that you wanted to work on. But there's a catch. You can only work on things that you started working on beforehand. Which means is that something that you started working on now, you'll be able to maximize and complete in the end of in the Messianic era. If you didn't, you're done. You're not going to be able to do that. To explain it like this, there is the 6 days of creation. The 6 days of creation is comparable to the 6 days of the week. God created the world in 7 days, but it was 6 days of actual work. So we work for 6 days. The seventh day Hashem rested. The seventh day we rest Shabbat. So the idea behind it is 6 days creation and work. 7th day Shabbat. What about Yom Tov? We're comparing all these things. What happened to Yom Tov? So Yom Tov is comparable to the Messianic era. If you're, Yom Tov, you're able to do things more than Shabbat. For example, you're able to cook. However, you have to be smart. You have to put a fire beforehand. So you have to prepare beforehand to be able to do stuff on Yom Tov. You have to do Erev Tafshilin. So there's certain things that you need to do to be able to help yourself work on on Yom Tov. The same way in the Messianic era. You want to be able to maximize the potential to achieve the greatest eternal pleasure possible. You have to start working about it now. You have to prepare just like you prepare for Yom Tov. That's clear? That has to be abundantly clear. Which means is that if you're not working on yourself, how about you for this seltzer? If you're not working on yourself now, you cannot work on yourself then. It's not like, okay, you're doing it, thank you very much. And all of a sudden Mashiach comes and be like, all right, I guess I'll keep Shabbat now. It doesn't work that way. You have to go and you have to work around beforehand. You have to build yourself there beforehand. So when the time comes, you'll be able to continue building it by then. And it's very unfortunate because people say, I'll worry about tshuva later. Tshuva is going to happen. By hook or by crook. We spoke about this but it's worth it. But it's going to happen. You're going to do repentance. The Gemara in Sanhedrin brings it down in 97. Says that if you're not going to do tshuva, God is going to send somebody to make you do tshuva. It's like we spoke about before, the good cop, bad cop. So it's going to happen. I want to read with you what the Chafetz Chaim wrote. Chafetz Chaim, I'm going to read with you a paragraph. This is a letter that he wrote. And he goes like this. Behold, from the Chafetz Chaim, the Radin, a big tzaddik, passed away in the 1930s, I believe. Behold, my brothers and friends, we see that the attribute of strict judgment has increased tremendously in the world. There is no day that we don't hear of horrible, frightening events. We must believe that this is a warning from Hashem for us to repent. Who knows what the next day will bring? The longer we tarry, the more heavenly anger will be meted out in our world. Any person whose heart is filled with awe of Hashem must take a position of leadership to clarify to the simple Jews the great obligation we all have to repent. Perhaps Hashem's anger will abate. If we refuse to repent, the Chafetz Chaim continues, we will be brought to reckoning for the delay on each and every day. For one who writes with a broken heart from the tribulations of Am Yisrael, the anticipation and anticipates salvation, Yisrael Meir HaKon Mirabim. This is the Chafetz Chaim wrote, like 80 years ago. I don't know, maybe 70 years ago. If what he wrote it back then, the trouble, we look at it today, not a day goes by when you open up the news and there's something else that we have to worry about. So this is something that we have to do. And how do we get rid of this? Very simple. It is tshuva. There's and it's very unfortunate because many people that when during these bad things happen, they don't focus on tshuva. And they think that it's just going to go away and it'll just happen by chance. One of those what's the worst word that you could use? Not accidental. Coincidence. Yeah, thank you. Coincidence. Everything is coincidence. There's no such thing as coincidence. If you think of coincidence, you're burying yourself. Why would you do that? The problems are just going to become more and more severe. This is why, when you ask people about the Holocaust, If I ask you, give me 2 words about the Holocaust, most people will say, never again. Those are the 2 words that come into mind. What do you mean never again? Like, oh, we're never going to go through that again. I'm like, who are you to stop it? Like, good, it should never happen again. But like that's not how we're going to stop it. We're going to stop it by not doing things that should merit us to go into that situation again. By doing tshuva. When there was a crazy amount of terrorist attacks, so what some people wanted to do was to the Muslims, if they like pig for Islam is a very big no-no, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, if you get like buried in pig or something like that, or near a pig or something along those lines, you don't get into heaven. So what they wanted to do is they wanted, because if let's say an Islamic person goes and commits a terrorist attack and he gets killed, they don't bring the body back to Palestine and be like, okay, listen, go do whatever you want, because then they're going to make it into, they're going to have a special martyr cemetery, or they're going to create, so they bury it in an undisclosed location. Now, so what they want to do is make a new law. Anybody who commits a terrorist attack gets wrapped up in pig fat and gets buried inside. This way, the terrorists are going to be like, listen, we're going to blow ourselves up, but, we're going to get whatever they think they're going to get, the 70 virgins, the 72 virgins, whatever they think that they're getting up there, but then they're not going to be able to because they're going to be covered in pig fat, so maybe they won't do it. Or some of them even said to take all the bullets and coat it in pig fat. So this way, when you shoot them, they're going to be already I'm like, do you really think that's what's happening? People who are thinking like that, be like, don't miss the whole thing. What is this happening? This is happening because we have to fix something going on with us. Not because, granted, we have to protect ourselves. We should. But that shouldn't be your main focus. The main focus should be, what are we doing that God is sending us these messages? Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a purpose. And if we don't wake up for that reason or that purpose, the reason is going to get louder and bigger and closer. So there was once a story where there was a guy who was very close to the king, and one day he did something really bad, like serious, very, very bad for the king. Whatever imagination you want to use, you can use it. So he goes, and the king was so distraught from this, he says, you know what? Off with his head. He was so close to the king. And as they were about to put the noose over his neck, he said, listen, he was always there for me whenever I needed him. He was such a good guy. Take the noose off. We're going to throw him in a dungeon. Really serious stuff. It's like, they're going to be like a 3x3 dungeon. He's not even going to have a bed. He's going to have to go to the bathroom in a corner. There's not going to be Wi-Fi. Crazy stuff. So, and they decide to put him in the most serious thing. And he goes and he puts him in the most serious conditions. And then, every day he's crying to the guards. He says, please, I beg the king for forgiveness. I know I did something so wrong. I did something terrible. Please give him the message. And every day the guard will be like, the guy doesn't stop crying and apologizing and repenting for what he did. The king felt good to hear this. After about a few weeks of him every day repenting nonstop, the king says, I feel bad. I really like him. It seems like he's really, really felt bad. He really did tshuva on what he did. He says, I'm not going to let him out yet because he did something really bad, but let's give him better conditions. Let him go, house arrest or whatever it is. Get some Wi-Fi, get some a bigger place. He's able to go to a real bathroom, get food delivered. Puts him on television, only real cable. Not basic cable, not this crazy stuff. He doesn't want to spoil him. So obviously the guy's not Jewish. So he goes and he sits over there in this upgraded facility. And the king every day, doesn't hear the guard coming, giving him any more messages. So he says, "What's going on with the guy? Is he still, asking for forgiveness?" He says, "No, doesn't bother him. He's very comfortable. He's got food. Some people, prison is more comfortable than life outside. You don't got to work. You get to go play in the yard every so often. You go do your workouts. You get a college degree. Get heat, TV, food. What is there to complain? He wasn't complaining anymore." So the king, after a few weeks, saw that this guy never once said, "I'm sorry," anything else for anything he did. He says, "What is happening over here?" He thinks he's all finished with all his apologies, with all his repentance. Put him back into the 3-foot cell. Take away his Wi-Fi, take away everything. And he goes to put back, and what happens? All of a sudden he starts crying again. "Please God, please King, I forgive you, please forgive me. I've been, sinned so terribly against you." And the king says, this is what I wanted to hear. Similarly, the way, God works. God goes and unfortunately, when do people start becoming more religious, coming more closer to God? Not always, but unfortunately, very commonly, when bad things happen. And all of a sudden, bad things happen, and they'll be like, "Okay, you know what, God, I'm here. What do you want?" And they're coming, and they're becoming religious, and then their life starts becoming better. And all of a sudden, they start like, all right, It's cool. Let's go start chilling out again with the old friends and hanging out with doing things that you shouldn't be doing. And all of a sudden God says, what happened? You don't ask for forgiveness anymore. Your tshuva is not complete. And he goes, so then again, more problems come. So it's a cycle. But every time the problems come, we're supposed to wake up and be like, okay, listen, there's a reason why something is happening. Let us do tshuva. And if you don't do that, then problems get stronger and stronger and stronger. The same idea. So what we need to do is we need to do tshuva. And Rav Chaim Vital says also, in the time in the days, one of the main things besides tshuva is also prayer. We got to go speak to God. You got to pray to God. The Gemara in Yevamot, page 63 says that disaster visits the world only because of the Jewish nation. And this is not because of arrogance. And the Ran writes in the Adosh Haran, Adosh Shishi, he brings down, he says sometimes even things that happen in faraway places, you know why they're happening? Because we need to wake up. And I have to present this very very carefully, because it's not like an arrogance aspect of it, like everything is about us, everything circles about us, but everything you can learn from. And if something is happening in crazy faraway countries and lands, it's for us to wake up. And if we don't wake up, the problems gets closer and closer and closer until it hits home. So this is how the Ran explains it. And even though we have to do tshuva and we have to do these contemplation, unfortunately, it explains the Mesilat Yesharim in the second chapter. And he says, unfortunately, if someone does a sin, people don't really feel so bad. They sort of like, all right, whatever, feel bad a little bit. They don't really go into it. And why is that? Because the evil inclination is a genius. He is so good at his job. He is so good. He doesn't give you the opportunity to feel bad. Why? Because he makes you so busy. He makes you so busy, and either with work or with that. And if you think about it, in our stage in history, we have the most free time that ever existed in humanity. We have the most free time because, generally how people work, you're working a full-time job, you're working 9 to 5. You're pulling in crazy hours, 8 to 6. You're a lawyer, you don't see your family for a few years, right? But other than that, you're working normal hours. Everybody has 5-6 hours a night before they go to sleep during travel time to contemplate. I'm not even talking about learning Torah. At least to just think about what you did. Think about But because we have so much time, the Yitzhak says, no, this is going to be very bad. Because if he has so much time, he's going to think about all the bad that he did. So I'm going to have to create things. I'm going to have to do things that he cannot think about himself. So what did the Satan bring into the world? Things, we're always busy. Everything. You ever realize that? A person is always busy. A person is always running away from one thing, from one person, and that's himself. People are going there nonstop with music. They listen to the same music, again and again, and I'm telling you, like, when I have to take trains, I tell you, I dread if I have to go to Manhattan and take a train, it's ridiculous. First of all, I could hear the music, and it's inside your ear, and I'm not even close to you, and I could hear it, and I'm like, it's not even words. I can't even make out the words. The words there's nothing. It's just like, and with a beat to it. And this is what people listen to nonstop. I'm like, why don't you stop for a second? If you're learning Torah, good, Baruch Hashem, at least you're doing something there. But think about life. You ever think about life? No one thinks about life. You have, this little terrorist over here, a cell phone, right? It terrorizes because it takes over you completely. People, when they're in the bathroom, a man, right, 30 seconds in the bathroom, on the phone. 30 seconds. What can because you God forbid that you're going to not do something for 30 seconds. You have to constantly touch the phone, and it goes so in. If you get a text, if people get what happens? It didn't happen over here, so don't look around. It didn't happen. But what happens if we have a big class? You have a bunch of people put their cell phones in there, and one cell phone vibrates. Every single person. Someone call me. Someone text me. It's like. It's like an addict. You'd be like, who texted me? I have to text him back right now. Everything's instant. I have to get everything right back instant. Imagine. This is how a proof of how addicted you are to it. You get a vibration. Let's see how long you can hold yourself back from looking into that. At a certain point in time, you get through withdrawal symptoms. You're like, I need it. I can't. So, we get the Satan gets us with so much nonsense that we're not able to contemplate. We're not able to think about what we did. Maybe we need to do tshuva. Maybe we need to fix ourselves. People go, YouTube, for example. YouTube, you go on YouTube, you're stuck on there for 7 hours. Facebook, forget about it. You don't know if you're alive, you're dead. Instagram, all these social media things, you do absolutely nothing for X amount of time, and that X amount of time usually is not 2 minutes. Just checking. It's usually, I don't know, 2 to 7 hours is generally where people spend on Facebook. How do I know this? Because there's something called Web Chaver. Web chaver is if for people, let's say, want to watch their eyes. So they don't want. So what they do is, and this is a good, why not send it out? People should really go. What you do is that if you want to make sure that you don't go to sites on your phone or on your computer that you shouldn't go to. So there's a company called Web Chaver that you have a chaver, which means you have a friend or whoever it is that you choose. That every week they send you all the sites that you went to. And so I have it for a few people. A few people send it to me, and I get their stats of where they've been. And I go through it, and if there's something, I'd be like, dude, here it is. Time to straighten out. Baruch Hashem. It rarely happens. They're really good guys. So, but generally the good guys are the ones that do it. People have the problem, be like, I don't know, I don't want to do it. Oh, I don't need it. This is like an addict, like I could quit without rehab. Yeah, sure. So anyways, but I get also something really cool, neat, that they came out with a neat feature that I get to see how much time they spend on apps. And even though these guys, they're kosher, I don't want to tell you how much time is spent on YouTube, on Facebook, and all these things. You don't know how many hours and hours and hours a day is being wasted on these things. Now why? Because you're running away from yourself. Why can't you stop for a second and think about your day? You're supposed to make a cheshbon nefesh. You're supposed to think about everything that you did that day, and think, did I do something right? Did I do something wrong? Maybe I should have learned extra. Maybe I should have done a little bit more. So the Chavetz Chaim would say that every day, this is the Chavetz Chaim. He would go in the side and he would count like a peddler counts his wares. Be like, okay, what did I do today? Did I do this right? Can I fix this? Maybe I could change over here. Just like you have a store. At the end of the store, at the end of the day, At the end of the day, what do? You check your balances. How much did I sell? How much money did I make? How much profit did I make? You do your checks and balances. If you do that for your store, for your physical store, how come you don't do it for your spiritual store? How do you know what? Maybe you're in debt in the spiritual aspect of things. Maybe you're not able to go and do tshuva. Okay, so. I know we're running a little bit late. We started a little bit late, so it will be a few more minutes. But if anybody needs to leave, no hard feelings. Okay, so now the idea with tshuva is also everybody knows that they need to do tshuva. By the way, tshuva is not meant only for people who don't keep Shabbat. Tshuva is meant for every single one of us. We all need to do tshuva. But the question is how many of us do complete tshuva? We all know that tshuva, and B'ezrat Hashem at the end, we'll go through really quickly how to do tshuva. This might as well, on the topic. But how many of us can go up to the next world saying, you know what, complete tshuva, 100%, it's not there anymore. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to do that, and it's constant work that you need to do. And people sort of like, yeah, whatever, it's very unfortunate because people, let's say for example, people didn't keep Shabbat, didn't keep kosher, didn't watch their eyes, so they stopped it. That's part of the tshuva. What happened to the tshuva of regretting it? Making sure that it's never going to happen again, staying far away from these things. There's different aspects of tshuva. How many of us can say that we are clean? We are completely clean of our past. The Gemara says in Sanhedrin, it says something very interesting. It says that Mashiach is going to come either in a generation that is kula zakai or kula chayev, which means either it's going to be in a generation which its entire generation is going to be meritorious, whatever, what I'm talking about. It can be good or bad, evil. And the question, I get this question very often, how is that possible? How is it possible that everybody's going to be either good or everyone's going to be bad? We know that in every generation, there are 36 hidden righteous people that because of them the world stands. And by the way, if someone comes and tells you he's one of them, he's not. But I know two others. We have a WhatsApp group, I'm the admin. So I make sure everything's okay. There's one thing with the WhatsApp group drives me crazy. With these people who decides that the admin, they run these things like Hitler. Everything's like Germany. No posting. No, what are you doing? I don't know how I went to Arnold Schwarzenegger, but whatever. I guess Germany close. So I'm like, dude, chill out. Nobody reads this chat. Everyone's like on 7,000 chats. People read one thing in like one chat once a week. That's generally how it goes. But people take it very seriously. This is my WhatsApp group, and this is how I create it, and this is how it's going to be, and so it's very bad. It's also, by the way, we're the same time. It's mine. It's arrogant. It's mine. It's all mine. But anyways, I digress. I need some therapy today. I apologize. It's been a very stressful few days. So the Gemara says like this. The Gemara says either it's going to be completely meritorious, completely zakai, or completely chayav. How is that possible? How is that going to be? We need Torah constantly in order to survive. So, we'll give you two answers. the Shem MiShmuel says that it's going to be that the generation is going to go to two polar extremes, which means either people are going to be completely righteous or completely wicked, which means there's not going to be so much of a middle ground. People are going to slowly drift into the polar opposites, which means it's not going to be like the whole generation is going to be either righteous or wicked, but it's going to be people are going to spread. It's going to be groups of people that are either going to be completely righteous or completely wicked, unfortunately. But the Chidush Rabbi makes sense as follows. It says, and this is the most beautiful aspect of it. He says, no. He says what it thinks is, it means that people are going to think they're completely righteous. And this is the greatest falling possible. And this is so true. You know how many people I speak to, and I start telling them, Shabbat, every time, if someone tells me you're not keeping Shabbat, that's all I'm talking about. Why would I talk about anything else? It's one of the most important things that you could do. So I will speak about Shabbat. They're like, no, don't worry about it. Me and God, we have an understanding. I'm like, you do not have an understanding with God. I guarantee you that. I'm like, what does that mean? We're buddies, back in the hood, we used to hang out, we did some stuff together. What does that mean you have an understanding? It's very simple. There's no extra Torah that I'm not aware of that if you're buddies with God, then you don't need to keep Shabbat. It doesn't work that way. You have to keep Shabbat. You have to keep the Torah. You have to keep the mitzvot. It's not like, well, it's very difficult for me because I have a show and I smoke and this. I'm like, God didn't put it into the equation and be like, everybody has to keep Shabbat until there's a certain show that's going to come up. It's going to be very difficult. It's going to be so good. And smokers. Everybody else has to keep Shabbat. Those people, you don't have. There was never a clause would be like, FYI, these people are okay. They don't have to. But the problem is that these people think they're okay. They think that they're fine. And unfortunately, many of us are in the same boat. Maybe it's not to that extreme that we are at least Baruch Hashem, we're keeping Shabbat or whatever, we're keeping kosher, we're learning Torah. But how many of us think that we're fine? How many of us, when we say like there's going to be a 20% is going to survive in the days, be like, who do I feel bad for? Because you already think that you're going to make it. Like, I really want to see them. Like, well, who makes you so sure that you're going to make it? Baruch Hashem, we should all make it, but we have to actually be like, really? Let's hope that it's going to, that we're going to be there. There was a major Israeli newspaper that did an article on the Erev Tisha B'Av, and it was in Tel Aviv. The bars, the clubs, everything was open. And the secular people even, they know it's Tisha B'Av, come on, you stay away. Even if you don't keep it to the full extent, you're not drinking beer and having a good time, the destruction of the temple. So the mayor and then some Knesset members, they decided, no, everything's going to stay open and they should stay open. So they went over to them and it says, what are you doing? It's Tisha B'Av. I know you're not religious, but come on. This isn't, secular people went over to them. So, one of the Knesset members went and says, what's wrong? What's wrong with drinking beer and having a good conversation, a good time? So I want to share with you two responses from two people, which I don't know if they're religious or not, but they're academics from the university. So one of them, I don't know, the name was not given. He was a prominent, all I know that about him, he was a prominent university dean. And he says, I live in Ramat Aviv. It's a secular area in Tel Aviv. And he says, I'm going to quote him, I'm embarrassed to have brothers such as these who distance themselves from the Jewish past. And it's really true. And this is even more. A professor, and he gives a name, Moti Kedar of Bar Ilan University, says like this, says a few short words, but it's so true. He who has no past has no future. So true. Like, and we're going so far away from where we are. And we don't think we're doing anything wrong. We're having a good time, drinking beer. What's wrong with having a good conversation? Knesset member, right? Anyways, so and this is when you think about, people, let's say, I ask them all the time, if you're going to have a TV in the home. One of the questions, if I get bored, I ask people, good to dig into the personal things and get them uncomfortable a little bit. So, it's a joke. No, not really. Anyways, so so I said, would you let your kids watch TV? Are you kidding me? God forbid. Like what the disgusting things are shown on TV. That's ridiculous what they show already. So I'm like, so how come you watch it? I'm not a prude or something along those lines. I know, yeah, it's bad. I'm different. Like, oh, okay, you're good. You're different. You're able to handle all the impurity that gets thrown to you. But for your children, no, I know. For them, I'm not. You can be religious for your children. And then public school. People think, how many times I have to scream at people. I'm like, why are you going to, not even kids yet, but like the adults would be like, yeah, I'm going to send my kids to public school. Are you an idiot? Why? My favorite answer, because it makes my blood rush. And this is where, and I already feel it. I already feel like, the whole coming out. And it's better education, Rabbi. Better education. And I'm like, Nagi, got to think about, got to make sure we got to calm down over here. I'm like, better education? I speak to public school kids and I speak to yeshiva kids. Better education. Let me explain to you what goes on in public school. First of all, you got a high school. I have some kids that come to me and went to public school, and I'm sure some of you went, so you could attest to it. How many hours are public school kids learning? High school kids. So I asked one particular kid. I'll even tell you, Maro High School, right? Yeshiva Maro, he calls it. He says, how many hours? So I'm like, what's your schedule in your day? Maybe we could throw in some yeshiva. So he says, no, tons of homework. Always tons of homework. 7 hours of PlayStation, tons of homework. So I said, what's your school schedule? It depends on the day. So give me a random day. What time do you end school? I'm like, 3, 4, what time? He's like, no. It depends on the day. So I'm like, well, he's like, sometimes 12. I'm like, you finish school at 12? You're 16, what do you do? And what time do you start? Well, it depends when I set my classes. 10 o'clock I could do. I'm like, well, hold on a second. You're in class for 2 hours a day? Like some days, yeah. It depends how I pick his classes. Some days maybe from 9 to 12 and that. And I'm like, better education. I mean, I speak to I speak to public school kids. I speak to yeshiva kids. You're telling me that the same education I had, there's one kid, let's paint you a picture. One kid who's learning about, what does he learn in public? He's learning about art. This is how Picasso painted in this type of circles, right? And this is a great knowledge, great worldly information, right? In case you ever become an art dealer, then, or maybe you'll decide to draw and doodle when the other boring classes, that's when it's going to come into effect. Meanwhile, what is a yeshiva student doing? First of all, a student doesn't learn for 2 hours a day. When I was in high school, I was in the yeshiva at 7:30, we got out at about 11. Do the math, how many hours a day? But let's say you're not going to that hectic, right? That was already at 12th grade. Let's say you're going a little bit. So you're there from 7:30 to about 6:30. You're learning over there. So you're learning for like 9 and plus hours a day. Not art or Japan's history or something like that. You're learning things that stimulate your cognitive abilities. You're learning complex Talmudic studies where you have to sweat in order to understand. And a kid is a sponge. A kid, when you're using your brain, the more you use your brain, by the way, the better it becomes. And this is proven. I could tell you from experience. If I want to, let's say, memorize something. So in the beginning, if let's say you want to memorize a Gemara, it takes you a long time. Maybe the first time I did it took me like 4 hours to memorize a page. But the more that you do it, and the more that you do it, you start becoming better at it, and you start working. So the more that you use your brain, the faster the brain becomes, the better that the brain becomes, and the smarter that you will be. It's probably better education. Oh, you got to be kidding me! Like there is no way that there's a better education. Yeah, if you want to go to college, you want to go. I'm like, I have people in my class that've been to Yale and Harvard. How many people do you know in Yale and Harvard? Well, doesn't mean have to be Harvard. Come on, shut up. You're wrong. So, also, you have one kid who's going to school. He's going to school with what? With a bunch of girls who forget to get dressed. And you want this kid who's a teenager to go and overcome his emotional situation going on right now. He's going to be able to concentrate on studies. Meanwhile, you have a guy who's learning in purity, learning in Tahara. He's going to be able to focus on his studies. I probably shouldn't say this, but at one school there's abortions at 15 years old. At the other school, it's not really so. And yeah, it's ridiculous that it sounds, and 15 is being, I could really go lower than that. And generally, most people don't hear these things. Why? Because people don't get an abortion when they're 9 months pregnant. But so they try to keep it on the down low. And unfortunately, I've heard, and from personal people that told me as well. So it exists, unfortunately. Anyways, let's finish up over here. The Rambam says like this in Hilchot Tshuva that like we said before, the only way the Jewish people are going to be redeemed is through tshuva. We have to do tshuva. And there's a poll that conducted by the Haf Institute that said like this. That said, not that much longer. That said that that between 1985 and 1989 and 1995, 17% of the adult population of Israel became more religious. That was, by the way, before the internet became big. You're talking about 1989 to 1985. That represents a total of 515,000 people became more religious during that time. And as the time goes on, people you see now is even greater than that. For sure. Guaranteed it's more and more people are coming to that. So, I want to share with you something. This, by the way, second most important thing that you should come for today. The Chesed LaAvraham says like this. He says that all those who are, I'm going to read it word for word because I don't want to make sure that this is how important it is. All those who are stubborn and do not repent will perish. But anybody who bears the yoke of repentance and accepts the troubles without complaint will be purified and become worthy. Which means is if you think you don't need to do tshuva, you're in that group that's not making it. Everybody, one of us, needs to do tshuva. Okay, another very quick I want to touch on. So we spoke about a few things over here. So let's do a quick little recap before we end. We spoke about Torah. You have to engross yourself in Torah. You have to go and get yourself in Gemilut Chasadim. Do a lot of Chesed. We spoke about getting rid of also baseless hatred, getting rid of the pride and the arrogance. What else we speak about? We spoke about Emunah. We spoke about doing things for the right reasons. We spoke about doing Tshuva, one of the most important things. And now the other thing that we need to do is prayer. The importance of prayer. We know that when we went out of Egypt, one of the main things was V'yizaku, the Jewish nation that cried out in Shemot chapter 2 verse 23. Vayishma Elokim et na'akatam. God heard our cries. The same way that we got out of Egypt through cries, through our prayers, that's how it's going to be at the end of days. And the Rabbeinu Bachai also, it brings it down. It says, there's two ways to pray. You could pray from, like, God, please give me, panasa, please give me a wife, please give me, shopping. And then there's a real prayer. Unfortunately, when do people give those real prayers? When they go through really unfortunate, hard times in their lives. And when they go through the hard times in life, then they get. But you know what those prayers are worth? I speak to the girls. When I speak to the girls' class, I'm like, girls have a secret power. They could cry so easily. I mean, literally, nobody should even watch a Disney movie, but you watch a Disney movie, girls are crying. They have tissues there because the panda bear didn't make it, and it's so sad. I just can't, and they just get into the whole emotional thing, and they're crying for that, right? They see a little, they see a little video on how a baby is brought out into the world, they're crying. Every two things, they're crying. Not everybody, again, it's a generalized thing, but they're very emotional beings. I'm like, use the tears for something. Don't waste them. God forbid you go and you wasted your time and you watch some sort of something and you're crying. Pause whatever you're watching, run to the other room, open up at the Elim, you're already crying. Cry to God. Use those tears for something good. And you should know that if anybody ever goes and you're ever in a situation, don't hold yourself back. Cry. But open up at the Tehillim and start praying. Start praying for you. Start praying for Klal Yisrael. Start praying for Mashiach. Those tears are so precious. Those tears can work magic. But yet, what do we waste our tears on, unfortunately? The Notebook. We waste it on the newest Disney thing because, the snowman couldn't survive or whatever it is that's going on over here. Even if you try to run away from these things, you can't. There's so much advertisement all over the thing. I don't know exactly what happened, but I know something about a snowman and something about ice, and that's very bad. Because it's very emotional, and you really get into it. Like, come on, get into the real world. If you're already you got yourself to cry in tears. By the way, this is not to be like, okay, you know what? Let me watch something to get me to tears. Then I'm going to go before prayers. Let me go and watch something that's going to make me very tearful. No, don't waste your time. But if you already wasted your time, you're already there, or you're already in an emotional state. Use those tears for something. This is how we get redeemed. The Zohar says, the Arizal says, one of the main things Rabbi Chaim Vital brings down is prayer. Is prayer. It's so important. So, I think that should be abundantly clear. Now, for the last minute, I just want to touch on how to do tshuva, which is really important. We're going to go through it really quickly because we spoke about this before. Even though I think this is one of the topics that maybe we'll do another class on it, because coming Elul, I think every year you need to learn how to do tshuva again, because it's something that you really need to bring yourself up. But we're going to go according to the Chavot Halvavot, which is 4 ways to do that you're supposed to do tshuva. Not 4 ways, 4 steps. Number 1 is that you should regret it. This is an important thing. You cannot say, I did tshuva, won't be like, hey, remember that night? Well, oh yeah, high five, good times, good days. That's not regretting it. Regretting be like, no, don't talk to me about that. I wish I wouldn't have done that. That's regret. Number 2 is obviously abandon. Turn away, remove from that sin. Don't do that sin anymore. You have a gambling problem or you're a Jew, stay away from Atlantic City. Both those aspects. Okay? Number 3, you should confess it, right? And we spoke about this before. You don't have to announce to everybody, hey guys, I'd like to just say, I did a terrible sin last night. You don't have to announce to everybody, between you and God. You announce it to God. And number 4, finally, is obviously do not repeat the sin. Do not do that sin again. Those are the 4 aspects that you should go and try to, do tshuva, cleanse yourself so that you won't, fall into that same aspect again. And finally, is the real finally. I think we did finally too many times today. But the real finally, I want to go through 2-3 things that prevent you from doing tshuva. And we're not going to explain it because we don't have time, but it's a notable mention, honorable mention. So number 1 is that if somebody continues doing a sin, it's going to be more difficult for you to stop doing it. The more that you get involved in the sin, the harder it is to get out. So even no matter small or large, if you're just leave. Stop it cold turkey as fast as you can. Number 2, is that if someone says, when I get older, I'll repent. Rambam is down. The Torah says like this: somebody who says, I'm going to go and sin and I'll repent later, they're not going to allow him to repent. It's going to be very difficult for that person to repent. Number 3, this is very important: somebody who causes many people to sin. For women, this is modesty. If a woman is not modest, she causes many men to sin. Men, our minds are very twisted. We don't work like a woman. A woman wants to get dressed pretty, whatever, nice. Why? Whatever. I feel good about myself, self-esteem, whatever reason that they're gonna say, which I cannot or can or cannot deny it because I'm not a woman and I don't know. But But for a man, if a man sees a woman that's not modestly dressed, it brings ideas to that person's mind. And if this person is not a kosher person and he doesn't guard his eyes, so one thing leads to the next, and everything else that comes out of that because of her, it's her responsibility. If a woman, by the way, is dressed modestly and she's, perverts, are looking at her, and because of that they sin, she's not held responsible as long as she did what she's supposed to do. But if she doesn't, then you're causing so many people to sin. Also, people that like to go and share out disgusting videos to everybody. Check this out, it's hilarious. And there's whatever, it's immodesty. Keep that to yourself. You shouldn't look at it yourself, but if you look at yourself, you're digging yourself your own grave. Why are you going to drag other people in it as well? The next one is somebody who laughs at the words of the Chachamim. Come on, the rabbis, they don't know what they're talking about, this and that, yada, yada, yada. Terrible thing, because eventually you're never going to listen to them, you're never going to do tshuva, you're never going to change it. I think we'll stop over here. But the idea is this really is one of the most, it's the most important class for Mashiach. These are things that we need to do. These are things that practically need to be done. And by the way, it's not only for right before Mashiach, even though we're right there. This is for everyday life. These are things that we need to go and we need to work on ourselves. So I think it's important that if you guys don't mind, we'll just go really quickly through the topics again, to just make sure that we remember what we're doing. So, because I know we went through a lot of information, and I'm sure, like the complaints I get constantly is that I speak too fast. And again, to everybody out there that I speak too fast, I'm sorry. I apologize. I try. I don't try so hard, but I try. There's so much information. I only have X amount of time to speak. We have to get it, And besides that, you get excited. You're learning Torah. It's hard. It's hard to slow down. You get pumped up. You start speaking a little bit faster. But it's funny because the opposite end, people start also tell me they like it because they can't space out. Because if you space out, you miss like 17 pages. So you gotta keep it with it. So, but I'll tell you like this: for the people that say that I listen too fast, I've never had that complaint from people that are live in the shiur. Usually comes from people that are listening online, and one of the reasons is that if you're usually because people when they listening to a class online, they're doing other things. So they are, they're browsing the web, they're shopping, I don't know, they're cleaning the house. So if it's difficult for you and I speak too fast, try this. Try focusing on the class. I guarantee, with a 99% guarantee, or money back guarantee, that you will be able to understand the class. Because if you're able to focus, you're able to keep up. Unless English is your second language, which is to me, so whatever. Anyways, so, but that is, I had to put that out there for the fast talking. I get that constantly. My number one complaint, you gotta slow down. I can't, so much information, so quick, so short a time. I'm sorry, and thank you and you're welcome. And at the same time, but I try. What?
It's a New York accent.
It's a New York. Yeah, New York. Everything is fast. We work fast over here.
They could just rewind though.
Yeah, they could. I had somebody who was very once. They told me that they're able to play it on slower speed.
Oh. Yeah.
So they go like on a slightly slower speed. I didn't know. That's pretty cool. So I guess people could do that. And then I'll speak like this. All right. So, but anyways, so let's do a quick recap because we are over our time. So we spoke about these are the things that we need to work on. We all need to work on this. Every single one of us, even the biggest tzaddik that we're all are listening here and presenting this information. Also, the presenter also needs to work on every single one of these things. We said Torah. We have to increase in our learning of Torah. It's not enough to sit and learn. You could say once a week, twice a week, every single day you need to learn Torah. If you're not learning every single day, you are falling behind. It is a must and it is a requirement. You need to learn Torah. Number 2 is chesed. You got to increase your kindness. Help other people. And what greater way to help is helping somebody else to learn Torah. Send them a class. Bring it. By the way, you should know, the way that it works in Kiruv, how to bring people to classes is only one way. It's not like, you post, an ad and be like, so somebody will be like, listen, it's a rerun of my shows. I'm not interested. I'll go. That doesn't work usually. 99% of the people, though, the way they come to classes, they get invited by somebody else. You get invited, be like, or you bring somebody else. That's how you get, and then eventually they find Torah so interesting, so amazing, so fascinating, they're just going to come again by themselves. It's like a bait and it's just a bait. Like, come in for the one class, let's try it out. You come and they stick to it because it's amazing, it's beautiful, it's so unbelievable, incredible that they'll start coming. So the way that you get people to come to class, the way that you get people to learn Torah is invite them, let them come to class, or send them into a lecture. Say this is a good one, listen to it. That is the ultimate chesed. Obviously, chesed gives charity, give kindness. Okay, we spoke about doing it by heart, so I might miss a thing or two. We spoke about also doing things in order. Emunah. We have to work on emunah. Fundamental. It's a muscle you got to work on. You got to work on your emunah. At the end of the day, is very, very important emunah. Also, we worked about doing things for the right reasons. Doing things for the right reasons and not for the wrong. But if you're doing things for the wrong reasons, keep on doing it, because hopefully eventually you'll do it for the right reasons. Then we spoke about also baseless hatred. You have to stay, you got to start loving your Jews. Got to start loving it. Every Jew is your brother or your sister. You have to love them like your family. And also, we spoke about tshuva. Extremely important. Every single one of us has to do tshuva. We have to do tshuva in all aspects in our life. And by the way, tshuva works, it's not all or nothing. Do as much tshuva as you can. Every little bit helps, every little bit counts. And then we spoke about also prayer. It is a fundamental and a requirement that we need to pray. And when you pray, you want to make a prayer count, make it and feel it. Feel it inside. Get connected. Speak to God on your own personal thing. God, I need this. Please, can I have this? Thank you for this. Get emotional. Get whatever it is that you need to get. Get close to God. That's how you're going to get it through Torah. Did we miss anything? Did we get everything over there? I think we got more or less or anything. Anybody else? Just review the entire class, and we'll do that. Any questions? No questions. Hazaku Baruch. B'ezrat Hashem, may we be able to see Mashiach b'mehera b'yameinu. And may we be the ones that are making it, and also everybody else, the entire Klal Yisrael, may we all do tshuva. Hazaku Baruch.